메리안 울프 박사님 안녕하세요. 북스타트 코리아 웨비나의 첫 번째 연사로 모시게 돼서 정말 영광입니다. 한국의 시청자들한테 인사해 주세요. 네.
안녕하세요 to all of you. It's my true pleasure to be with you, and I want you to know how important Korean culture has been for me, especially during COVID, when I made a real study of Korean culture, drama, film, books, and even music. I actually play Iruma now.
Great. 감사합니다. 그럼 제가 아주 어린 아기에 대한 질문부터 한번 시작해 볼게요. 아기가 양육자의 말을 전혀 알아들을 수 없는 갓난아기 때부터 우리는 아이들한테 말도 걸고 노래도 불러주고 또 이야기를 들려주잖아요. 예를 들어서 "사랑해. 엄마가 오늘 좀 피곤해. 아빠는 일 때문에 좀 늦나 봐." 이런 이야기를 들려줘요. 이런 활동들은 아기한테 그리고 또 양육자 자신한테 어떤 변화를 일으킬까요?
This is one of the most beautiful aspects of human development. First things that a parent needs to know is that before the baby is even born, their auditory system, their
음.
ability to hear, even 2 months before the baby is born, is developing. So when the baby is born, they are hearing the voice.
음.
They are hearing. Is it saranye? To
Oh,
say
yeah.
I
Oh,
love you,
that's right.
saranye. They hear this. They associate these words with the feelings of touch.
음.
Reading is often about the touch that we give the child, but there's a touch that we give in our voices and what we say. Even though the words themselves are not known, the auditory system is learning language.
음.
It's learning the sounds of Korean or the sounds of English. And they are beginning to put together. Their brain is literally learning sounds and feelings, touch. These associations are some of the most important things that we give to the development of
음.
language. So, those first words that we give over and over and again, we are giving them with love. And so we are associating language and love and
음.
affection. And we are teaching language from the very start. Even though they don't understand
음.
exactly what the words mean, we are cumulatively
음.
giving them the foundation for language. So by 6 months, they are moving into a period where they are trying out these sounds themselves, so the little sounds. And by 9 months and by a year, they are actually imitating, beginning to
음.
imitate parts of words. And by 18 months, they are literally on their way to learning that language in words. 50 words, sometimes even 100 words, sometimes only 20 words. But that first period that we are speaking is so very important to set up the
음.
language system.
Great, great. Yeah. Likewise, we read picture books to babies. 마찬가지로 두 돌 이전의 아기들한테도 우리는 그림책을 읽어주죠. 물론 아기는 그림을 볼 수 있지만 또 말은 완전히 이해하지 못하고 글자는 전혀 모르는 상태예요. 그래서 양육자가 책을 읽어줄 때 아기의 뇌에서는 어떤 일들이 벌어지나요? 책 읽어주기는 아이의 주의력이나 언어 또 인지와 정서에 어떤 영향을 주나요?
This is one of my favorite
음.
questions because it shows how much the baby is learning in different ways when we
음.
read. When we read, we're often, in fact, the first chapter I ever wrote for Proust and the Squid was called basically Under the Crook of an Arm Where Reading Begins. And that's connecting the emotion of love and affection with reading. So
음.
you are connecting the feelings of emotion. Now, a picture book is something very special because it's adding visual concept learning,
음.
putting together and a symbol of something. It's a picture of a dog, a rabbit, um, um, a person. and they are learning that there is this depiction of something they know.
음.
So what the brain is doing is making all kinds of connections. Now, you know that,
음.
but your audience will not. But we were never meant to read. We have a brain that learns how to make a new circuit. And the new circuit is really beginning by seeing this book.
음.
In the United States, there's a book basically called Good Night Moon. And
We have that one.
oh,
We know
you
that one. Yeah, that is translated.
oh, I'm
I
so
know
happy
that.
that well, I have it memorized. In the great green room, there is a
See.
telephone and a rental. And my children, who are grown-ups now, they still occasionally say, "Mom, do you remember that book?" And I will say, "In the great green room." And if they are transported back to childhood. Why? Because the children are learning to put concepts, language, affect all together.
음.
Now, they may ask for that book so many times, you say, no,
No,
more,
no, no.
no more, not again. And then you skip. You
Yeah,
are
yeah. I did
you
a lot. I did a lot.
you are tempted to skip, and they'll say, "Oh, mommy, 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 the mouse, the mouse." They know, they are learning sequence. You see,
음.
books give a sequence of a plot. They give details. The eye is learning to see where the mouse is on that book and how it changes from page to page. The ears are learning that these words go on this page and these words go on that page. So without ever any consciousness, they are developing the concept of what a book is. That words stay on that page, that pictures stay on that page. And so the circuit, that earliest circuit, is beginning to connect.
음.
Connect vision, concept, language, and feeling. These are the most beautiful associations. In I do many podcasts, many lectures, and people always think that I should begin with age 5 and 6 when they think reading begins. No.
음.
Reading begins when we, the beloved characters, say, Saraye, and we are conveying love, and that is connected to those books. I tell people the most important part of reading begins under the crook of an arm.
That's beautiful. Yeah. The next question is asked by a lot of parents. 다음 질문은 정말 많은 부모님들이 해주신 질문인데요. 5세 이하의 아기들한테 양육자가 종이책을 읽어주는 거하고 또 전자매체를 읽어주는 게 어떤 게 다른지, 전자매체는 요즘은 한국에서는 세이펜이라고 하는 토킹펜이 있고 또 뭐 오디오북이라든가 또 동화매, 애니메이션 같은 거 이런 거를 읽어주는 거는 어떤 차이가 있는지 좀 설명해 주시겠어요?
This is a really important and serious question. I will have to say, I'm going to say things that are difficult for parents here
음,
because we now have research on the brain.
음,
My colleague, John Hutton, who is a pediatric neurologist, takes brain images of babies who are read to by their beloved caretakers versus hear it, same story in audiobook versus seeing it in animated fashion on an iPad.
음,
The very same story. And what you see is that the brain is activating language regions, very important language regions that have to be connected, that have to be learning and active. What happens is that with the caretaker reading the story, the most activation in those language regions is happening. The second most is the audio version. So there's language activation, but it's less
음.
than when the child is being read to. The third most, the least active,
음.
is when they see it on an iPad. Now remember, this is the same exact story, but in the iPad, they are giving everything.
음.
The child is very passive. The child doesn't have to think and reflect as much as when they are with with the parent, the mother, the father, the brother, the sister, the teacher, because the teacher is also or the mother as teacher, the father as teacher, they are also slowing down when they see the child needing to be have it slowed down. They know by looking at the child's face when they understand a word or do not. They stop, they elaborate. Do you remember the little puppy that we had? They are
음.
interactive. But
음.
there's something else. There's another kind of interactivity of the imagination. The child has to imagine, is using more of their imagination. They're using more of their background knowledge, what we would call analogical thinking. They're making an
음.
analogy between what they know and what they're hearing. And what it's not that any of these are bad, but some are better. And
음.
what John Hutton uses an expression called the Goldilocks
음.
effect, that the best for the child is to have that child being read to by a beloved person. Now, all of this is coming at a time when parents are so um, busy and so full of responsibilities. And during COVID, I feel the worst about this question because I can only imagine how necessary a mother or father feels when everything they're doing seems like it's impossible to do everything and take care of their baby. So the iPad becomes like an extra babysitter or caretaker. I understand that. I would just urge parents to only use a little. And
음.
in my book, what I said, it's like a developmental, if you will, sequence where you introduce the iPad or whatever. Certainly, FaceTime is wonderful with relatives. It's
음.
not an either or, but it's a thoughtful, very minimal use of
음.
those, if you will, devices before 5.
음.
So I don't say outlaw them. I think when you outlaw them, that you have the opposite effect eventually. Then sometimes the child just wants to have more and more. But instead to have it known as something that you see a little of it every day or a little of it every once in a while, but never used in the way so many of I know
음.
American parents as a caretaker, as a babysitter.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. In your book, Readers Come Home, 선생님 책의 다시 책으로를 보면 가능하면 많이 읽어줘야 된다라고 하는 의무감이나 부담감 때문에 아이를 딱 잡아가지고 막 강제로 책을 읽어주는 엄마를 언급하셨어요. 아마 그 엄마한테는 책 읽어주기는 즐거움이 아니라 부담이었을 것 같아요. 아마도 한국의 시청자들 중에 저건 안 돼? 하는 사람들이 좀 있을 것 같은데요. 우리가 아이를 책의 세계로 안내할 때 좀 유념해야 될 거? 그럴 조언들이 있을까요?
There's a good end to that story.
어.
I told the mother of
음음.
that mother, slow down, relax,
음음.
don't carry 6 books in a bag to the pediatrician office.
음.
Take 2.
음.
And don't just read like that. As
음.
and the baby was becoming nervous, and
That's
it
right.
was the opposite. And so you want a rhythm with your baby. And
음.
the mother, that mother, then got the advice. She knew it was coming from me. even though even though I said don't say it's from me. And so
음.
her mother told her this, and she slowed down. She
Mhm.
even slowed down when she read. And
Mhm.
the baby changed totally.
Mhm.
No more nervousness. The
Mhm.
baby still was read to morning and afternoon and night,
Mhm.
but it became a loving ritual, not a duty. And
Mhm.
so, what I would suggest to every Korean mother and father is that you know your child, you know the rhythm that is
Mhm.
helpful to your child, and that's what you should follow. You always read every day. That's not what I'm saying. I say read every day, but especially at night,
Mhm.
making a beautiful ritual so that the child looks to books as something really wonderful. Well, that child now is 5 years old.
Mhm.
And that child has a vocabulary that is fantastic and loves books. And
Mhm.
now has a little sister. And the little sister is imitating the
Mhm.
older child. And now that older child is half reading to the baby.
Oh,
And so
great.
what's so interesting, that older child slows down. So we really have a happy story
Oh,
out of
yeah.
in changing duty into
Mhm.
joy.
Into
That would be
joy.
my
Yeah.
that would be what I say. Change the sense of duty
Mhm.
into the sense of joy between parent and child.
That's right. Yeah, I totally with you. Yeah.